Los Angeles, I'm and most high for the night. She goes to California, oh, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying,
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy, the show that talks 100% LA Galaxy soccer. We're glad you could join us. Now it's time to sit back and relax as your hosts navigate through the twisting, turning, but never boring world of your six-time MLS Cup champion, LA Galaxy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com, coming to you on a Thursday, February 13th. It's raining. I was just out in it. My hair's all askew. There's drops still. My shirt's still wet. It's wet. It's wet out there. So what better time to sit, talk about some soccer? The LA Galaxy getting ready to wrap up all that is Coachella. One final game coming up this weekend. Maybe it'll be out there, maybe it won't be. But what have we learned so far? What do we take away from the last game they played on Wednesday? A little 2-1 victory, first victory this year for the LA Galaxy in the preseason. So we want to talk about that. There's a new kit out. There's schedules. There's Apple TV. There's everything that you ever wanted. It's getting busy. There's a surprise guy, or not so much of a surprise guy at Coachella as well. So we got a lot to get to in order to help us do that. We're glad to have him back on with this wonderful weather. It is Mr. Alex El Nino Ruiz. Alex, how you doing, bud?
I'm good, Josh. Really excited to be here for the first time in 2025. I was on Corner of the Galaxy last year, and they won the championship. I'm back again. You guys put the math together.
Yeah, I think Will Kuntz actually mandated that you come back on again. It was one of those things. He wants to run it back. You have to be here in order to run it back. So we're glad to have you. Any truth to the rumor that you are the reason that we are getting rained on today, Mr. El Nino?
Yeah, just missing Ricky Pooch, missing all the guys out there. It's great going to Coachella, and we had a great experience. We saw each other there at the live show, and all our wonderful listeners as well. Great to always catch up with them, talk with them, have that human interaction with them. But yeah, there's a part of me that just misses being at Dignity Health Sports Park, and shed a little tears today, and I guess it was a little too much.
Yeah, it's time to go back, right? And we're almost there. A little over a week from the LA Galaxy season opener against San Diego FC, which will be the Sunday night soccer game on Apple TV, and announcements coming for Apple announcers and all the things that sort of usually lead up to this wonderful time of year. So we are getting close. I actually got my code for Apple TV. That's how I know it's time for the season to start. I got my code for Apple TV. I'm ready to go for the season, ready to check out everything that's going on. And Apple's sort of messing around with the kickoff times and doing some stuff, but they're putting it out, when football ends, football begins. And so the LA Galaxy certainly in on that, and will be part of that first Sunday night soccer as they take on San Diego FC, who, as Alex, you can't tell anything about preseason, right? Remember, preseason doesn't matter until preseason matters, right? But right now, you can't tell anything. But San Diego hasn't been looking great. So in terms of what the LA Galaxy are up against coming up in a little more than a week here, maybe the Galaxy feel pretty good. But I think maybe we need to talk about what we've learned so far from Coachella. What are your big takeaways from Coachella so far?
I've just really liked the way the team has just, looked like they've been playing at a good intensity, right? It feels like, there's still that, hey, we're going to try to set the mark on day one of preseason, right? Last year, I think everyone we've talked to mentioned that Miami game as, hey, this is the game that started it all. It set that intensity. It set kind of just that expectation that we can play at a championship caliber level. And, talking to Diego Fagundes after the game against Charlotte, he was like, yeah, we're trying to establish that now in preseason. We're trying to get into that mentality now. So that way we can kind of just go through the season. Obviously they now have a target on their backs, but they still want to prove to everybody, if you're going to come at the king, you better not miss.
Yeah, it's interesting to sort of see that. I feel like, in some ways, in talking to Will Kuntz at the Coachella. By the way, thanks everybody for coming out to Coachella. We didn't do a Monday night show because we were all exhausted from having to truck it out there and then truck it back in the same day for all that stuff. But it was
watch that horrible Super Bowl
and watch that. Yeah, I got back in time to be like, oh, the game's over already. Okay, cool. Don't even have to worry about that.
But the halftime show and then went to sleep. So
that was it. That's all you needed to know. But no, Kevin and I had a great time. It was so much fun to see everybody. The LA Galaxy are absolutely amazing to us while we're there. We ended up giving out a whole bunch of tickets as well. So it was great to see a bunch of people get a chance to go to Coachella without it. Mr. Anschutz was there. I actually got the closest I've ever been to Mr. Anschutz was at Coachella. I was like 10 feet away from Mr. Anschutz. That's the closest I've ever gotten to him. We were joking around with somebody. We were like, hey, if Mr. A wants to come on the podcast, they're like, yeah, I'm sure you'd like that, right? You just make it. I'm like, yeah, we'll kick anybody out who's in there. With anybody, it doesn't matter. I'll throw Kevin out of this podcast in order to get Mr. Anschutz on. But we still got to see him there. He was there till about halftime, I think, and then made his departure. But it's always nice to see him stopping by. He's still there. Everybody's watching, so we saw that. Dan Beckerman from the president of AEG was there. You had Tom Braun, who's have been a staple here on our podcast as of late, and he was there. We had Will Kuntz on. We had Tom Bogert was out there. Kobe Jones. I mean, come on, man. The crazy thing was, a little behind the scenes before we get too carried away, but I was watching Kobe make his way towards us, and he couldn't get to us because people were getting autographs. Like, I was like, he's going to make it eventually, and I was sort of stalling on the podcast, waiting for him to. Then eventually got here, and then whenever he was done, they took out there, and then there was another line of like 30 people who showed up to get Kobe. So Kobe, what more can you say about that? So that was awesome. Talking to Zonka.
Legend. And then same thing with Greg Vanny, right? I think after he finished talking with you guys, the whole line of people to get his autographs as well. So, I mean, it's just a great experience to kind of just have that intimacy with the coaches, with legends like Kobe Jones and Zonka. I think it was the first time like us as the media had ever heard him talk about the LA Galaxy. So it was good to kind of hear him and his thoughts so far.
Yeah, but people are asking if Mr. Anschutz asked me for my autograph or if I asked for a picture with him. No, there was, it was funny because I was sort of saying, I know he doesn't do any, he doesn't do any media or anything like that. And then I was eventually like, he doesn't need to do any media. You realize like it can only be bad for him. Like everything is fine without him doing media. Everybody's good. Everybody's happy. Everything's fine. You don't need to push Mr. Anschutz to do media. So, but no, it was really fun to sort of be out there. So that was great. Having said that, I didn't even know Zonka got to play like the last couple of minutes in that game because I was getting ready for the show and I didn't see him come in and the whole deal. So I was almost flying blind there, but I got to see Zonka. Got reminded once again why I'm not a professional athlete. Whenever you stand next to one, he's much taller, much stronger, much bigger, much younger. All those things in there, certainly there. So you got through that. So that was the Sunday game. We go into Wednesday. Galaxy rotate, and I think Alex, you made this observation, and I want to give you a chance to lay it out. But you've been talking about Yamane so far and the preseason. What have you seen from Miki Yamane?
Yeah, I think last year we kind of went a little unknown about Miki Yamane and his role, what he would be able to do, right? I think him kind of playing as that inverted fullback was a new wrinkle. We hadn't really seen much from Greg Vanny. And of course, over the course of the season, Mickey got more comfortable. Greg was able to trust Mickey a lot more. And I think in the preseason right now, we're kind of seeing the complete trust between player and coach, between the player and the tactical system and the instruction. I mean, Miki Yamane, he's doing everything right now. It feels like he's just playing at, if everyone's at level 10, he's at level 12 right now. Like he's very aggressive, making those runs, not afraid to dribble through players. He's smart and knows how to position himself with Gabriel Peck to not only maximize his impact in the attack, but also Peck's as well. And, Mickey, he's got to be just like the perfect coach's player, right? He, comes to work every day, doesn't do anything crazy on social media, grinds, is quiet. Like, I would love to, have him on my team
right.
If I were a coach, right? He's just perfect for that role. And I think right now we're really seeing Miki Yamane and Gabriel Peck. Obviously, with Ricky Pujap, everybody's going to need to kind of take a little step up when it comes to production to kind of fulfill, the 20-plus goal contributions he had last year. But yeah, Mickey and Gabriel Peck on that right side are looking really good, combining well off each other, looking good on the defensive side as well. I feel like that's going to be the strongest side for the LA Galaxy for this entire year. And, I know the Hammer wanted to make a push for Mickey for Defensive Player of the Year, right?
Right.
And Gabriel Peck, I think right now is looking like he's going to charge for an MVP case this year. So I'm really excited to see how that right side of the Galaxy looks, because both players are top-notch quality.
Yeah, well, they're going to have to be, because right now we know, and the news came out, Joseph Paintsel out, I believe, 6 to 8 weeks with a hamstring, and so that's something that we are watching on him. And when he comes back and how he comes back. And so already the LA Galaxy without Ricky Puig. Remember how we kept track of designated player minutes last year? Well, right now the LA Galaxy starting in that hole. They're losing 2 DPs to sort of start the season. I will say that it seems it seems a little ominous, but in a way it almost mirrors what happened last year whenever you look at the LA Galaxy sort of getting Paintsel late and Peck late, and they weren't quite ready whenever everything started. And yeah, they started the season and you didn't know whether or not they were going to be 100% ready, and even against Miami, it wasn't, right? It wasn't there. We didn't think they had it all together. And I sort of feel that way right now. I feel like the LA Galaxy have all the pieces, and we have to go over the pieces that were added since the last show. But one is, of course, Lucas Sanabria. We'll talk about him in a little bit. That was one of the big things that happened in between our last show on Thursday, and then he got announced on Friday, and then we got to see him out there on Sunday a little bit. Played some minutes on Wednesday, so we finally got some Sanabria looks there. And there's no point in saying like much yet. We saw him a little bit. And it's sort of like, okay, we'll wait to see what else we can see. That's what I said. I'm like, okay, let's see what else we can see from him. So for Sanabria, and then the other one was trialist number 17, which we all knew was Christian Ramirez, and we all knew he was headed this direction. That became official as well, and the LA Galaxy sending $250,000 in 2025 jam to Columbus, and then possibly $250,000 in incentive money in 2026 as well, so about $500,000 total in that. And then looking at Ramirez and just his contract amount and everything like that, he fits in, I think, pretty nicely. So we're going to watch and see how that sort of develops. But there's lots of questions, and I keep getting asked about it, is who's the number 1 at the number 9 spot? And it's Christian Ramirez. Don't overthink this. They brought him in because, and I think, Alex, you were even saying it, he's the safe choice to start at the number 9 right now.
Yeah, he's an MLS veteran. He's a guy who's been around the league across various teams and been productive no matter where he's been at. Again, he's a SoCal kid, so he's motivated to also kind of perform for the LA Galaxy. And I think, yeah, kind of like we were talking about earlier, like he's the safe pick. He's a guy who, like, I'm very confident, like if like the line is at 9.5 goals, he's going to hit that line. I am very confident that he's going to, with Gabriel Peck, with Paintsel whenever he becomes healthy, when Ricky Puig, whenever he comes back to the equation. I very much believe that Ramirez is going to get on the end of that service. And look, he's played with Cucho Hernandez. He's played with Diego Rossi. He's played with players of high IQ and high ability, and he's been able to fit seamlessly with them. So I don't really see him having any issues here with the LA Galaxy. And he's a big guy. The Galaxy kind of needed that size, someone who can, fight for aerial balls as well. So I really think he might be a threat on the set pieces. Maybe we see a bit more crossing from the LA Galaxy. We haven't really seen that a lot from Greg Vanney's teams over the last couple of years, but maybe that new element, new dynamic is what will keep the LA Galaxy on their edge, and maybe another wrinkle to run it back this year. Yeah,
I'll second the bigger guy, a bigger body, a little bit taller, that type of thing. So I think 6'1". So the ability to get on the end of some higher crosses, which is again something you pointed out, isn't something necessarily the Galaxy do, comes from Columbus, who played with the ball, right, and built up with the ball. So similar style to how the LA Galaxy play. I think he was 8-6, 8 goals, 6 assists last year in terms of what he was able to provide for Columbus. And so you look at him now and say, okay, he's actually going to be put in with a better group of guys sort of around him that it could include Marco Royce. Again, Marco Royce dealing with an injury as well. That one seems more minor, but we haven't heard, I think, the complete extent of what it.
Yeah, Vanny kind of just referred to it as like an inflammation. So it doesn't seem like it's going to be a super long-term kind of thing compared to Paintsel, but yeah, definitely something to monitor, especially if you're going to be playing these CONCACAF Champions Cup games early, and the games are going to pile up sooner rather than later.
Yeah. By the way, people asking how many years Ramirez is for. So Ramirez was under contract with Columbus, and so the Galaxy just take that contract over. Mm-hmm. I believe this is his option year. They exercised his option and then traded him this year. So this is the last year for Ramirez, unless the LA Galaxy want to sign him to something. And then, of course, there is the other piece that sort of gets added there as well. We'll talk about that in a second. But just looking at Ramirez, for me, a little bit quicker than Dejan Jovalic. So I'm expecting that whenever Gabriel Peck goes tearing down the right-hand side and Joseph Paintsel goes tearing down the left-hand side. Remember, Joseph Paintsel, the fastest player in Major League Soccer. Whenever those guys start tearing, that you're going to see a lot of times Joveljic was a little bit late to get there, but sometimes that works out well too. I expect Ramirez to be a little less late. He's not going to keep up with those guys, right? But
no.
But he should be able to still, sort of use what he has and his ability and sort of his diagonal runs and some things. I was talking with a good friend Christian Miles today about what Dayon did so well, which was sort of like the diagonal runs inside the box, right? These little diagonal runs that keep you open, that go from off the back shoulder to in front of a defender, that type of thing. Ramirez can do the same thing. And again, I think we overstate it whenever we say it, which is as long as you have somebody who is mildly good at finishing, you're going to be able to score goals with the LA Galaxy. I actually think Christian Ramirez could have one of his big years this year. And at 33 years old, that's not something that you necessarily expect. But he doesn't show signs of being older, but we'll certainly have to watch him to find out, right? So Ramirez being in there was big for me. I think the big takeaway I have so far from Coachella is that the LA Galaxy play like the LA Galaxy, regardless whether Ricky Puig is there or not. They defend better when Ricky Puig isn't there, right? And Greg Vanney sort of said it. We make a lot of space for Ricky to be able to do what Ricky does. We don't have to create that space if he's not there, so we'll just be a little more compact. I'll go again, and I'm risking this. I understand. I have a Charlie Rugg problem, all right? I have a Charlie Rugg problem, Alex. He was my guy. I went out on a limb for him. I was like, this guy is great. Elijah Winder has looked outstanding in the limited time that we've sort of seen him. It's been a real small sample size. Greg Vanney talked about it on the podcast on Sunday, and he said, I've given him so much to think about that you can sort of see the analysis paralysis is what he calls it. Yeah. And I see that as well, but at the same time, does Winder look like he doesn't belong on an MLS field? He's playing with the starters. Let's be very clear. He's been playing with the starters the entire time. Maybe that changes as Sanabria sort of keeps coming along, but he also might have to play there because I don't know if Royce is going to be ready, and if Paintsel's hurt, then Fagundes is going to have to probably play on that left-hand side instead of tucking on the inside, because ideally, I think you'd like to start with Fagundes or Royce in the center and Peck and Paintsel on the outside, Ramirez sort of as your diamond that you're playing there. But if Paintsel's going to be hurt, Fagundes has to play on that left-hand side. I imagine that you could very well see a starting lineup against San Diego FC with Elijah Winder in it, which would be crazy just in terms of you're talking about a guy who was at USL and has jumped up to Major League Soccer. What have you seen from him? Maybe you can talk me down off the Elijah Winder train, because I am there. Toot.
No, I'm right behind you. I want to follow up that toot and do it myself right now. I mean, the guy's looking really good, and I was talking to somebody who's covered Louisville City, where he comes from, and Winder had to deal with an injury that kept him out for some time. A lot of his game, if we've watched, is his just physical attributes, where he's a bigger midfielder, right? He's a little bit more lengthy. He's a guy who covers a lot of ground, not afraid to kind of get stuck into these challenges, and he's just a perfect fit for MLS and its physicality. I don't think it's been a problem so far in preseason, and I think once the regular season comes around, he'll be ready for it. But yeah, kind of like Greg said, right? They're kind of just hoping he's able to process things a little more quickly, kind of play within the system, build that rhythm, build that chemistry with those guys around, because I was watching a lot of last year, and Mark Delgado or Edwin Cerrillo, right? They're not doing anything crazy complex. They're just playing within the patterns of play, within the system, making reads, deciding where to pass the ball with it. And I think, as Greg said, once he starts to play a bit more, gets used to the reads he has to make, what movements he has to kind of do to kind of get those overloads on the wings, because we know the Galaxy love to attack down that right-hand side. And, Elijah Winder, I think, has been playing a lot at that right center midfield role. So he's definitely going to be very involved with Yamane and Peck, who we talked about earlier. But yeah, I really think that once Elijah Winder just mentally is kind of just able to be a little bit more quicker with his passes, with his decision-making, he's going to be a real diamond in the rough finding in all of Major League Soccer. He looks really good, really young, can still progress a lot. So yeah, I'm with you, Josh. I'm on that hype train all the way.
Yeah, he's an interesting one. I think the big side for me is his defensive side too, right? And for all intents and purposes, is we are seeing a double pivot in the midfield. I mean, that's sort of where Vanny, I think, has set it up right now, and whether that's Cerrillo and Winder in the double, but Cerrillo's been in there with Winder, and then you've had somebody playing. Sometimes Cerrillo goes up and plays the 10. Sometimes somebody comes in and cuts in and plays the 10. Sometimes Winder's been playing the 10. So you're sort of seeing a little bit of Lucas Sanabria in that same sort of position. Again, the LA Galaxy call him box to box. I've talked with a bunch of people, so they're not saying defensive midfielder. Elijah Winder is more of a defensive midfielder whenever you're talking about what he does. But if you watched how he's playing, he's not exactly playing like a defensive midfielder. He's playing much more into the attack. Edwin Cerrillo, more of a defensive midfielder. Greg Vanny's already called him out and said, hey, we're going to see more of him into the attack this year and creating things. So you got three guys who all have a penchant for defense, which, I mean, if we're taking guesses right now, I think the LA Galaxy could be as much as 10 to 15 goals better on defense this year, just because of how they're going to be set up. And you can go back to Yoshida. You can go back to Garces, who has looked good. We talked about Yamane. John Nelson still playing with the first team. Aude's been playing with the second team. I mean, that's going to be something. And then the goalkeeper position. The goalkeeper position has been super interesting, but what we're seeing, and I think it's safe to say it right now, is that Novak Micovic is the number one goalkeeper right now.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know how I feel about that, Alex. And this is the only thing. I understand the investment, right? So I will understand it from the investment side. I understand the investment the LA Galaxy have in Novak Micovic. What did John McCarthy do wrong last year? And what has he done wrong in the preseason to me? I mean, like, isn't that his spot to lose? And it almost feels like it wasn't his spot to lose, like it was time to turn the page. I will live with the decision. I'm just saying, when I'm looking at it, do I feel great about it? I don't know that I feel 100% great about it. Now, I will say, if in fact it is true that Micovic as the number one, he's been playing with the first team the entire time. He got first team minutes again. We've been watching him play with the first team the entire preseason. We have not seen him play with the second team. So if it's Micovic, how short is that leash? Is he going to get time to settle and get in? Because otherwise, are you going to break him? As soon as he makes a mistake, you're going to bring in John McCarthy? Like, how is this going to work, Alex? Because I already feel like it's uneasy. It feels uneasy for me.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me when, like, you have, like in the NFL, right? When you have a veteran quarterback and a rookie quarterback. You put out the veteran and everyone's like, oh, we just want to see the new guy. We want to see the rookie. What does he got? I feel like, yeah, John McCarthy obviously earned his stripes last year, had a great year. But at the same time, John McCarthy really doesn't have a track record of kind of playing at that elite level for a majority of his career. It could it be that last year maybe was an outlier year where he overperformed expectations. Again, the entire intention of McCarthy was to kind of be the bridge for Micovic to slowly get him, into that starting role. And, I think Greg, when he talked about it after the game against Dawson, he says he has a certain vision for how he wants that position to be played, right? I think Greg has been dropping those hints with us whenever we talk to him about it, whenever that goalkeeper competition is mentioned. It just feels like he's leaning away from McCarthy and, going all in on Micovic at the moment, when he's kind of saying that, like I said earlier, like he has a vision for how he wants the goalkeeper position to be played and, keeps praising Novak for his performances last year. I feel like that they're going to turn the page on John McCarthy sooner rather than later. Whether you like it or not, I feel like Galaxy will have to do it. I mean, John McCarthy isn't the future of this position. He's not going to be a guy who's going to be here for the next 3-4 years.
Right.
I think if you want to get Micovic to be that starter and you want to actually commit for him being the starter long term, you need to play him now, or else you're never really going to see anything. And by the time he leaves, he'll have just a handful of appearances, and it'll just be a lot of questions and what ifs. Again, I don't think there's a crazy drop-off between Micovic and McCarthy. Obviously, they both have their pros and cons. We know Greg prioritizes possession and kind of wanting to play out of the back. Novak is definitely going to be way better at that than John McCarthy. But I'm really interested to kind of see just how bold Greg is, if he's going to do it off the bat, or if we'll see McCarthy for a little bit and have Novak play midweek games here and there and kind of just slowly bring him that way. But if I were Greg, I just go bold and just put in Novak. Let's just go with him, see what we've got. If not, McCarthy's still there.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, We saw some JT Marcinkowski playing some goalkeeper. So we've seen McCarthy, we've seen Marcinkowski, we've seen. I don't know that we've seen Scott in too much that I can remember, but he's right now still a Ventura County guy more than anything. And the Galaxy talked about that they're going to need him to play those minutes down there as well. So I don't disagree with anything you say, and I was in the same position, sort of understanding where that all was. I will say this: I think people over talk about Novak Micovic's distribution from the back. I think it's made a bigger deal than it really is. And as it was shown last year, the Galaxy were pretty fine with John McCarthy doing what he does. Now, I've watched Micovic kick the ball out of bounds many times as I think I've seen John McCarthy kick the ball out of bounds, right? So there's always these things. It's 100%. I understand why they're doing it. I'm just saying sometimes some of this stuff feels slimy. Like it doesn't feel like it's like, the whole deal. It just, you have a guy, he wins an MLS Cup for you. And welcome to the business, man. This is it. I want everybody to focus on this for a second though, Alex, because I think it's important. We pay attention, and you and I are in a position to see some of the other side of it, but we pay attention to the positives of sports, right? You look at, oh man, this guy came from nothing and now he's a superstar. Like, look at this amazing thing that goes. We don't focus enough, and there's a reason for that. It's because history is written by the victors, right? Yep. But we don't focus enough on the guys who don't make it, and the guys who get cut because of, just salary cap, or the guys who maybe they were on the cusp. Maybe they just needed 3 or 4 more games, right? And here's the thing I want everybody to understand. You can be the best soccer player in the world, and sometimes things just don't work your way. An injury at the wrong time, a coach who doesn't believe in you whenever you show up. All of these things can turn a career sideways, and it doesn't mean that you couldn't have been one of the best players in the world. Right now, for the most part, cream rises to the top. We usually know that. Usually, guys who separate themselves are there. But for guys who develop maybe a little bit slower, develop differently, or there's guys who practice like crap. Right. But they go out and play games and they're great. Right. And so you have these guys. There is that thing. This is the business part of Major League Soccer. This is the business part of soccer that we're seeing. John McCarthy did nothing wrong last year. In a normal world, he shouldn't lose his starting spot. But you know what? Galaxy invested a lot of money in Micovic. It's time to sort of, hand off that baton. Time to move forward. So what happens to John McCarthy? Is he going to be a number 2? Or the Galaxy going to move him? Again, I've said 4 goalkeepers is too many. The Galaxy can tell me that they're going to keep 4 goalkeepers all that they want. I'm just saying that 4 goalkeepers is too many. We all know it's too many. And as somebody once said, don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining, right? 4 goalkeepers is too many. Yeah. We all know it. So what's going to happen and how does that go? And by the way, they could go a whole year with 4 goalkeepers. Doesn't mean that they weren't planning on moving somebody and it just never worked out or something like that. So I'm interested to follow that. But right now, I would very much expect that Novak Micovic is your number 1 starter, and I think John McCarthy's on the bench whenever it comes to San Diego. So, you're talking about some of the things we've learned in Coachella. That's what we've learned in Coachella, right? We've basically figured out what the starting lineup should be right now for the LA Galaxy. The question marks that we had coming in were sort of John Nelson at left back and whether or not he would stay there. Right now, he's staying there. Julian Aude. Yeah. What do you think of John Nelson? I believe we're on the same page where we look at John Nelson and say, man, you're just going to get a solid defender and you're going to get a solid guy going forward. And he was so solid last year that it's tough to get him. But this is similar to Micovic. Aude has the higher ceiling and we all know it. So when is he going to get
that U22 spot, right? He's a guy they invested around $4 million in. And look, Aude definitely does add a little bit more of that attacking flair than John Nelson. Everyone will tell you that. But just John Nelson's just a solid guy. He goes under the radar, not for a bad reason, but he doesn't put a foot wrong. He's not a liability. He's just adds a defensive anchor that the Galaxy needed. And look, if I'm Greg Vanney, John Nelson, Maya Yoshida, Amiro Garces, Mickey Yamane, when those back 4 are starting a game, they're undefeated ever since last season. So if I'm not messing with that, and I'm keeping John Nelson in the lineup.
John Nelson, he's a great guy too. Really like John and fun. And again, this is a guy who St. Louis didn't play for the second half of the season because he had a performance bonus contract. Basically, that if he went over a certain number of minutes, they'd have to give him. And this next year, it automatically triggered. So they just sat him on the bench for a half season. I don't know what that did to him mentally. It'd be a great idea to find out, because that dude has come in and played some of the best lights out soccer of his career. And now, again, it's a ceiling question. Who has the higher ceiling? It's probably Aude. And you're taking all that, and you paid money, and he's on the U22 slot. Aude probably finishes this season as the starter whenever it comes to it. But what are you going to roll the dice with off the bat? It's John Nelson. You're going to stay. Yeah, we're going to be practical. Greg Vanney needs to be practical through the first half to 2/3 of this season, which is going to be crazy. It's not going to be. I doubt it's going to be a lot of Showtime Galaxy, right? The whole deal. But I think they're going to be better defensively. Hey, they may, Alex, hold on, this is going to be crazy. They may win some games 1-0. Just craziness.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe that. I mean, how many times did we watch like so many crazy endings to games and like these games getting super open at the end, right? I really want to see a full year of Emilio Garces out there. I mean, he looks so good. We were talking about it at Coachella, right? Like, he should have been the MVP.
Yep.
Hindsight being 2020 of the MLS Cup final. I mean, the guy was everywhere. He was covering ground. He was just being a complete boss all over. So I'm excited to kind of see him, for a full season. John Nelson again. He's just been really, like, you can't complain about what he's given you. There's no reason to drop him. He's not been horrible in the attack either. Like, he has, I mean, we all remember his goal, right, against Colorado. I mean, Nobody saw that coming, but he's got it in his locker when, push comes to shove. So, yeah, I think right now Greg's not going to overthink it. There's no reason to overthink it. Just play with the best available lineup you have there, and that's what we've seen in Coachella, right? When those starters are out there, that starting group, we know those are the best guys, the best 11 out there for LA.
By the way, a guy who's pushing too, Ruben Ramos Jr., pushing, always in a lot of these first teams. I think that was sort of waiting for Sanabria to show up in some of this, but I don't think that that's a bad backup whenever we look at what Ruben Ramos Jr. can provide. So there's been some guys who have been a little bit, I mean, by the way, shout out Tucker Lepley, brace, right? Gets 2 goals. UCLA grad, a guy who is loved in the locker room. There's a lot of support that he gets from the rest of the guys, and so I think it was a pretty big deal to see him get 2 goals against Minnesota. Minnesota, by the way, coming off, I think, a 6-0 win over was it San Jose? It was KC. Yeah, it was against. You're right. It was against Kansas City.
Yeah, right during our live show.
That's right. Yeah,
it was going on. Right as the live show was going on.
It was a bloodbath. So it was a 6-0. That was Dejan Joveljic over there. It was funny because we was having some conversations with some people in Coachella about Dejan and being like, he's not going to have the help that he had with LA, and what does that mean to his scoring and everything. So could be a long year for Dejan Joveljic as a designated player for Kansas City, that type of thing.
Dejan.
Yeah, man, if he starves from service there, it wouldn't surprise me, right? And so, like, the one thing we always said about the LA Galaxy is that strikers could have a lot of success if you got the service, right? And so you need to feed them in order to get that. So that'll be interesting. The only piece we're missing now, so you got Sanabria signing a deal until the 2029 MLS season, so that's done. Ramirez is in his option year, so that's done, so you add that. The only one we were missing was a rumor about Matheus Nascimento. Tom Bogert tweeted about him. The big deal, and I know Mike Gray is in our chat room, but Mike Gray got a picture of this guy, and oh my, I don't know. To me, looks like Nascimento, right? So he's there, and so we are expecting that deal happens. Speaking to those around the LA Galaxy, sort of using the analysis of he's a puppy with big paws, right, and an excellent pedigree, right? So what does that mean? Can we break that down? Yeah, we can break that down. And whenever you look at puppies, and they have big feet, it means they're going to be a big sort of player, right? And so that's what we're sort of seeing with this. They think that Nascimento could be a really good player for them, but they realize there's developing. If you have big paws, it means you have some growing to do into those paws, right? And so This is that development there. And just from where he comes from and how he's played, and in the 40 plus games that he's played, and all the stuff that sort of comes in there, he could be a really interesting signing for the LA Galaxy. And this is, we talked about who's the number 1 at number 9. Well, that's easy. It's Christian Ramirez. Who's the number 2? Well, it could be Nascimento, and you could see a lot of him this year, especially in some of those alternate tournaments, Leagues Cup, that type of thing, but also coming off the bench, trying to get his beak wet. Think Dejan Joveljic whenever there was Chicharito, right? Now, a little different whenever you have Ramirez. We're not comparing him to Chicharito, but there's somebody there who is going to be able to show how this young kid sort of how to go about Major League Soccer and how to score goals in Major League Soccer. Christian Ramirez is a proven track record of scoring goals and doing things. It may not be outstanding. It may not be, oh, he's going to score 20 goals this year and do all that fun stuff there, Alex. But I think there's a pretty strong belief that that Christian Ramirez can go out there and do his job, and then that will help, Nascimento. What do you see from all this?
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy who has a lot of pedigree, kind of like you were talking about. He was a big youth prospect coming up. I think he's the youngest player in Botafogo history to make their debut at like 16 years old. This is a kid who's been with Botafogo for about like 4 years now, in and out of the lineup a little bit here and there. He got a lot of playing time whenever Botafogo got relegated. The thing with him, though, is that playing time's been really hard to come by. Ever since Botafogo got new American owners, they've been investing in a lot of, more veteran players, big name players right in the attack, kind of how we see with the LA Galaxy, right? Where, if you're a youth guy, a young forward coming up, it's going to be really hard to get playing time because you're having the Galaxy or signing players like Peck and Paintsill and Jovelich and all that. So Nascimento has been kind of left behind a little bit. The only playing time he's getting is in the regional tournaments in Brazil, which really is pretty short, not getting that enough time to kind of develop and really grow his game over the last couple of years. So coming to LA is a win-win for both parties. For Nascimento, you get playing time, you get to show kind of your abilities. For the LA Galaxy, you get to see if, hey, is this guy kind of worth investing in long-term, especially since, it's reported this is going to be a loan. So you kind of want to see if he's, going to be able to grow, be able to kind of fit within Greg Vanney's system, because he's a very different profile than Ramirez. More of a quick, great, technique, a guy who can keep the ball and dribble really well. Doesn't really have that physical presence, doesn't really kind of have that aerial dominance. He's going to maybe play a bit more like a false nine than a traditional number 9 striker. Just because he's a lot better at kind of dropping in deep and, beating his player in one-on-one scenarios. He kind of just needs to learn to, be more in the box and kind of be more of a fox in the box kind of player than be a guy who's going to, be all over the place, right? Where he's very undisciplined tactically. So I think if he, whenever this becomes official, because it looks like it, he's there with the team.
Right.
Greg is going to have to try to, teach him how to kind of play off the ball and not just try to kind of come towards the ball. Stay up front, stay forward, use your quick movements to get yourself open. Players will find you and just, have that final lethal touch to put the ball in the back of the net. But this is a good project. I think a good player with a high ceiling that the Galaxy can definitely get something out of this year.
Yeah, so Nascimento in Coachella, that is something that we expect to have happen. So that's something certainly to watch as that gets completed. That would complete the LA Galaxy's U22 signings, because that would be Aude, as we talked about, Sanabria, and then Nascimento. So it's going to be interesting to see how he sort of fits in. But at 20 years old, you're talking about, I think that's 150 on the cap hit. So like you're talking about a seriously discounted cap hit. And we had this discussion with Will Kuntz about the U22s. Basically, if you do a good job with your U22s, you're almost playing with 6 designated players if you have 3 DPs and 3 U22s.
It's a free DP if you get it right.
Right, yeah.
It's a free DP if you get it right.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why it's so important that they get them right. Certainly with Aude, I know with the injury situation last year, as far as I can tell, he's healthy now. So we'll see how he builds up and gets ready for the games this year. Again, I would expect that Aude, if he stays healthy, which we expect, I expect that you're going to find him in these games. You're going to see him a lot. People are asking if he could play winger. He can. You can certainly put him there. I think he's going to be a more defensive winger if you do it, more of a wing back. But you could do it, especially whenever you don't have Paintsill. Maybe you want to move Diego Fagundes inside. Maybe you need to move some things around. I wouldn't do it. It's not something I think overall. But if you're up in a game and you want to throw in an extra defender, then you could throw in Julian Aude and he could play outside of John Nelson, and they could sort of play 2 left backs over there and slide 5 across the back. You could absolutely do that. And then think about Yamane coming up and sort of folding into the midfield, and then you have 4 in the back. And you can do that's the
there's a lot of wrinkles.
There's so many wrinkles. I'm waiting for Greg Vanney just to start pulling back the cape. And that is something that I don't think we've talked enough about. Greg Vanney is this sort of master of string pullers that he comes in, and he should deserve more credit. I really think we're just starting to see the beginning of the LA Galaxy's development in terms of what they can do tactically and what wrinkles they can throw in and how great, because Greg Vanney has now put them in a position that they understand the system. And I think I said at the beginning of the show, the 2025 LA Galaxy look a lot like the 2024 LA Galaxy whenever you watch them play. Good build-up. Minnesota was a team that was snuffing out people with pressure, and if you watched it, the second team, Minnesota United, going against the second team, sort of LA Galaxy, there was that pressure. And the LA Galaxy second team, which I'm not going to be like super nice about. There's a big drop off between the first team and the second team whenever you look at it. But that second team, LA Galaxy, was able to beat the pressure and work the ball around past Minnesota that was sort of doing that high press. And then whenever the first teams came out in that later end of Coachella, spring training thing is just annoying. You got to watch, you're like, oh, I don't have to pay attention to this game. Oh, no, I do, because all the starters are now in for the last 15 minutes, right? And so now you're watching to see what actually you can see. But you saw it, the first team came in there and then got the same sort of pressure and was able to break pressure again. So yeah, Ricky Puig isn't there. Yeah, they're not going to play out of the back the same way, Alex. They're not going to have the same creativity, but you're probably, and it's something we talked about last year, and let me be clear, because I don't want Ricky coming after me. I just want him focused on you. Is that the Galaxy are better with Ricky Puig on the field. 100%, always. More creative, all that stuff. Even though they can sometimes turn the ball over in bad places, the creativity, the excitement, the showtime, all that stuff, that's why Ricky Puig is so good. And there's a question mark if he didn't get hurt, whether or not he'd still be in LA. He may have gotten traded or transferred in the wintertime. That could have happened. But Ricky Puig... when the Galaxy played without Ricky Puig last year, Alex, we saw a more disciplined team. We saw a team that was able to hold the ball a little bit better, take their time, work those buildups, and not turn the ball over in bad spots and then get countered and all those other things. So I am very much thinking that the LA Galaxy are actually set up pretty fine. Matt Doyle even said the same thing. He said, hey, if anybody caught my Soccer Wise a podcast I did with David Goss, we had Matt Doyle sort of come in and give us some things, and he said, the Galaxy are going to be okay without Ricky Puig. I believe that the Galaxy are going to be okay without Ricky Puig. Are they going to be great, Alex? I don't think so. I think they can be great whenever he comes back. And right now, I don't think anybody's expecting Ricky Puig. I think end of August is like sort of my window. Like August to September is the window I expect Ricky Puig to come back in.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. So, but
go ahead. I'll add to this a little bit. Kind of you talking about the tactical stuff. Whenever we got to talk to Greg for the first time this year, I asked him specifically, like, hey, teams have a lot of game tape on you now. They've seen Gabriel Peck. They know Joseph Paintsill. They know kind of Mickey Amane, all these kind of players that, we didn't know about a year ago. Are you going to add any wrinkles? Are you going to add any new things? And Greg said, look, when we're training, we add a lot of different instructions. We kind of develop these players to play in certain ways. And whenever we need to do any alternate instructions, any alternate formations, any alternate tactical things, the guys know exactly what he wants. So like you were saying earlier, Josh, Greg very much a great cerebral, tactical coach. I think this year, given the circumstances that, Ricky and Paintsill aren't going to be with us
right.
To start the season, I think we're going to see a side of, Greg Vanney kind of playing the mad scientist, where he'll maybe have some players do different roles, where he'll maybe kind of add new wrinkles to the LA Galaxy,
right.
Maybe playing a different formation at times, So I'm really excited to kind of see this new evolution of the LA Galaxy, because they have to change. People know what they're going to do. They know what to expect. So I'm really looking forward to kind of seeing just what Greg's going to do. Is Gabriel Peck going to get all the usage now? We've seen Mickey been really good. Is he going to, be on fire to start the year? And again, there's just a lot of things with Nascimento, Sanabria, all these new guys coming in that the Galaxy can definitely find a way to, evolve without Ricky in a positive way. And I'm really looking forward to that. And I think we're really going to see that at this first half of the year.
Is there an over-under? I think within the first 10 games, the over-under is 6. At 6 games, has Greg Vanney come out in a post game and saying that was my fault? I gave him too much. Like I was trying to pull some strings and it didn't work. Right? I don't think he's going to be afraid to tinker, and I think you're going to need to at the beginning of the year. But the cool thing with that now is there's a base to fall back to whenever you tinker, right? And you're sort of like, hey, whenever you tinker and you haven't figured it out, that's where the danger comes from. When you know what works and then you tinker from that to try to find stuff, you can always go back to where you were, and they're still that level. And I think the LA Galaxy, watching them in preseason, still have that level. Watching Diego Fagundes run around, watching Gabriel Peck run around, like with the ball glued to his foot, Megan people, Miki Amane, Megan people like crazy. It's they have the swagger of champions. The problem is that there's a lot of pieces that are missing from that championship team right now, and so you're sort of sitting there going, okay, so you expect them to be good, how good? And without Ricky Puig, how good? There's a lot of goals that you have to come up with, and a lot of assists you have to come up with to make up for missing Ricky Puig.
Yeah, and I can, I think everybody has, trust in Greg to make the right tactical choice. I mean, looking at the last year, there's maybe one game where I can think of where like I can confidently say Greg got it wrong in the tactics. And it's only one game out of the 42 that they played last year. So I think there's confidence that if Greg tells you to play it in a certain way or give you a different instruction, that it's going to work and there's reason behind it. So I think players, the coaching staff, everybody in the organization, is going to be behind whatever Greg's going to want to do, whatever wrinkles he wants to throw out.
I want to get to some super chats because they've been sitting there. Executive producer Herb, who we always appreciate, 2425 on his super chat. Hey Josh, was great to see you and the fam. Here to give Alex a shout out for his Galactic Tribute articles, which are gold. If you want great Galaxy related content, give Alex a follow. Also, thanks for saying hi at CBI. Herb was great. Herb's always great out there saying hi.
Oh, he was amazing. First person I talked to when I got to CBI. Saw him immediately, said hi. Always great to catch up with him.
It is good. Adam, it must be in my show notes because we were literally going to go over this. Adam goes, hey guys, can I get your thoughts on the New Jersey? New Jersey? You mean there's a New Jersey out there? Oh my goodness. Surprise, surprise. Who would have known? It wasn't Lucas Sanabria who accidentally leaked his agent, I should say, leaked the brand new kit. If you were at our Sunday show or you listened to our Sunday show, you might have heard Will Kuntz talking about how he got in trouble for that. And then I looked at Will Kuntz wearing a jacket that also looked like it was I go, is that jacket supposed to be out here? He's like, yeah, I got in trouble for wearing this too. He goes, they gave it to me like 2 weeks ago. What am I not supposed to wear it? So the Rizon away kit is now out. It is that blue purple sort of, as they called it, the Magic Hour kit. And I'm gonna be just understand, Alex. I was not a big fan of this whenever I saw this sort of trying to come out and how it was sort of going to be put out, and I was like, okay, let me wait till I see like the good pictures, right? Because you're getting somebody who accidentally found it somewhere and doing all that,
and see the authentic versions and not the replica ones they put out in stores, right? Whenever you see those leaks,
it is always different whenever you look at those things. So looking at all of the amazing sort of stuff that you've seen, that you've been able to see from it. It's gorgeous. I mean, I really like it. I can't wait to see it in person. It's one of those that I think will only get better whenever I can get closer to it. And it really is going to be, I think, one of those iconic hits. Is it the best one ever? No, but the colorway is different for sure. It's a different look for the LA Galaxy. The only other thing I would say is Orlando playing, but that's the only thing that I would sort of put as an issue, which is it's very purplish, which is usually Orlando's colors and that type of thing. But I think it's going to be a lot of fun. The RBC logo on the cuff. You're seeing the Apple TV and the MLS patch. There is one thing I want to make you very aware of. That Apple came up with a really awesome quasar inside of the Apple logo, right? And the Apple logo was supposed to sort of adapt to the jerseys and that type of thing. We're being told that quasar look is only for on-field stuff. I would just like to point out that's ridiculous. The biggest thing about owning a jersey is like the ultimate in fandom, right? And whenever you want it, what do you want, Alex? Whenever you have the ultimate in jersey, you want to wear the jersey that the guys are wearing down on the field. That's what makes you feel like this is. By the way, that's the only reason ever to buy an authentic. Because what do you need an authentic for? You going to go out and play soccer? Are you on the team? Do you need an authentic, right? And you're talking about a guy who only has authentic jerseys, right? I'm right there. But the only reason you get authentics is because it's supposed to be authentic to what is on the field. And with Apple /league /fanatics making a decision to not allow fans to have the Quasar logo Apple. I know it sounds so small. It's just stupid. It pulls away from the immersion of what you're trying to do when you buy a jersey. So that's the only thing. I love it all. I think it looks great. I'm a homer whenever it comes to jerseys anyway. I love this stuff. I realize these are huge investments for people. We're talking about $195 plus. I saw people $220, $213
in this economy.
But having said that, I did show it to my kid, and he was like, "I need to have one of those." I'm like, "Yeah, of course you do." So we'll see if that actually happens. But yeah, what your thoughts on the kit there, Alex?
Yeah, I really like it, Josh. I think the colorway is definitely different. If you were to ask me kind of color associated with the Galaxy, purple really doesn't come to mind. But hey, I like it. After winning a championship, you can kind of have a little bit of the freedom to experiment a bit. And I mean, this couldn't come at a better time. These kind of Laker colors. You got Luka Doncic on the Lakers now. You kind of got that Laker fever here in the city. So I really like this kit. It definitely reminds me a lot because purple is kind of like that royalty color,
right?
That's what purple was known for back in the day. So MLS Cup champions wearing purple. That's it. It only makes sense.
Yeah, it does. By the way, the rizon, that's RIZON, is the 2025 away kit. And basically it's fusing Horizon and Rise. That's where you get the rizon out of that, okay? Not to be confused with ricin, which is a biological weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's not go there. But inspired by Magic Hour. Magic Hour, of course, is sunset. Whenever the sun starts going down, the sun is setting, and it casts these orange and purple hues out. Is known as Magic Hour. Magic Hour, its purples, blues, and golden hues captures LA's bold, unapologetic spirit. So it was really, really interesting to sort of see how they did it. I think Will Misselbrook said it's a statement of identity, a tribute to a city that rises, rebuilds, and thrives. With the fires and everything like that, I thought that was sort of an interesting, and I don't think he's trying to link it. I just immediately thought of that, the rising rebuilds, and thrives. And so interesting that. I just want to know, Alex, who's the first person who's going to make sure that Luka gets one of these jerseys and that he has it? Like it needs to happen like immediately, right? You got Lakers colors, you're ready to go. Make sure he has it. It should happen in the next week, right?
Yeah, if Dayon was still on the team, he would definitely be my guy that would do it, but not anymore. I know. I feel like Luka would be like a LA Galaxy guy, coming from like a team like Real Madrid where he first started off his career. I mean, the LA Galaxy are the Real Madrid of Major League Soccer. It only makes sense. It's a great kit. I like it. I think it's going to look really good on the TV. Again, that's how most of us are going to probably kind of consume and, given this is an away kit. But it should look nice, and I think it'll be one of the more popular kits this year. Yeah,
by the way, Adam asked, $5 super chat, Josh and Alex, any theme nights that you guys are looking forward to for this 2025 season? And I thought I had the theme night one. I do. There it is. All right. I did have it. The big ones, one, first of all over it, 329 Churro Fest. You got my attention. Thank you. I'm here. So that one, the big one that I think everybody's going to look for, and rightfully so, April 12th is the 2024 replica ring giveaway. And so that's going to be a big deal. Looking at that 20 years since the, I think, 2005 championship. So that's going to be a big one that everybody's going to want to get to. There's always Star Wars 9. Oh, sorry. 810 is the 2005 replica ring giveaway, and April 12th is the 2024 replica ring giveaway. So you're going to get 2 rings this year. I mean, what more can you ask for with it? Oktoberfest and the Marco Royce bobblehead. The Panda's going to have another bobblehead for his collection, that's for sure. And then fan appreciation on 1018. Usually a horrible game, but it wasn't last year. So we'll see how all of that goes this year. But yeah, there's a lot of good ones. Of course, Alex, is there anyone that you're looking forward to? I named them all, but do you have a specific one, Alex, that you're down for?
Hey, man, Churro Fest looks like a lot of fun right now. I'm going to tell you that. I'm hoping it's kind of like you have like these guns that kind of just shoot out churros into the crowd.
That's a great idea.
That's kind of what I'm hoping. I mean, come on, it's just perfect for it. I'm always kind of a big on the ring nights. I always think it's kind of great. Obviously, in our American sports culture, rings are kind of the crowning moment, the defining moment of the season, what you play for. So I think the last time they had a replica ring one, it was pretty crazy kind of seeing people sell them for like hundreds of dollars on eBay.
Yeah.
So I wonder what the market's going to be at. I'm excited to see that. Just
You're excited to
who's
make
gonna
money.
sell-
That's what.
no, I'm not going to sell mine.
Oh, okay.
I'm just excited to see like, okay, how much is this going to be worth on eBay? But yeah, the ring ones should be fun. The churro one, I don't know. It intrigues me a lot. It's just that me being Mexican and growing up eating those sweets, it's just like, churros. Always got to have a good one.
The only thing I'm worried about. The only thing, and I think this is a legitimate worry. I don't know. Somebody can come at me if they want. The only thing I worry about churros is that churros can go horribly wrong. If you don't cook them well, they're like trying to eat a rock, right? So yes. I don't want bad churros on churro night. Do LA Galaxy, do whatever you have to do to make sure that the churros are of high quality. I need good churros. I don't know if maybe that's too much to ask. Maybe that's too much.
You're good.
Okay.
Because you don't want it to be like super hard where it feels like you're kind of just nibbling on a rock right there, and it's kind of super dusty, and all the mess is getting down on your shirt. And you also don't want to feel like you're chewing gum as well.
Yeah.
Because churros that are undercooked are horrible.
Yeah.
It's not like, I'm a little pregnant. It's either you are pregnant or you're not. They're either
right.
good churros or they're not. There's no in between. So
right.
LA Galaxy, you got to get it right. I'm building up the hype for churro night. I'm raising up that expectation that, churros all around Dignity Health Sports Park are going to be on top quality that night.
Well, I did make the joke on Twitter, and I will make it again here because I enjoy making this joke. All of those wonderful giveaway nights also line up with Josh's favorite time of the year, which is eat pupusas before the game night. And AFJA is, of course, doing their pupusas with a purpose once again. They will be in the same spot they were for MLS Cup, if you remember that is. It's on the back side, basically right next to the store that's on that south side. So they have the merchandise store that's on the south side, and then you walk outside of that, and eventually if you walked out those doors of the merchandise, you would turn left, and they're going to be right there. So they'll be right next to it. That's at least what I've been told so far. I will get you exact updates whenever that comes. But as always, AFJA are great people. I am excited because really, Alex, once the soccer season stops, my pupusa eating stops. So I haven't had pupusas since MLS Cup, which is a long time. So I'm ready once again on the 23rd to go back and eat some pupusas. So just wanted to let everybody know that AFJA is there.
Like a reverse hibernation in a way.
Yeah. I'm starving for pupusas. It doesn't look like I'm starving for anything. People are calling. I'm going to ask you. I need a professional's opinion. You have good takes on churros. I will deem you my professional opinion. Are the Disney churros, are they a good marker of good churros, or do I have to go to Northgate Market that's near me? I haven't been to the what do they call the place that makes churros? Is there like a churro factory, whatever it is? They have a great job. They do their line's always out the door for those churros. Yeah. So I'm always wondering, do I need to get in line for those? But do you need those Disney churros? Is that a good churro? Lay it on me. The white boy needs to know.
Oof. Yeah, I haven't had a Disney churro in a while, to be honest with you. So, but last time I had it, I enjoyed it a little bit. Though it did get a little crunchy because it was cold that day.
Okay. Yes.
So
you have to eat them when they're warm.
Consume it quick. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Good.
Okay. Straight out of them getting deep fried or whatever. You got to eat it out of there because once it gets cold, it's like, why am I holding this for?
Yeah.
The last time I had a churro I can think of was Dodger Stadium, right? Whenever they're selling it in there, and those were pretty good. But it's churro night. It's a night dedicated to churros. There has to be a higher expectation. So, and that's what I'm expecting.
This is professional level soccer. We need professional level churros. All right, good. I'm glad
what month is churro?
It is. It's with the first one. It's like 3/29.
Oh, okay.
Isn't it?
Because I was gonna say if it's September, I was like, if it's on Hispanic Heritage month, you can't mess it up.
Okay, no, it's not. So now you know. By the way, Adam says he's looking forward to Central American Night versus Dallas on August 30th. Always a good one. But of course, then I just eat pupusas every time, and then I feel like I'm always in the right. I don't think you can go wrong with pupusas. So I'm excited as everybody there. Patrick, by the way, says, is there ever good food at Disneyland? Every once in a while, Patrick, every once in a while. It's also the fact that you've been walking for 7 miles, and you'll just eat anything. Have you ever hiked, Alex? You go on a big, long hike. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. But whatever food you eat at the end of that hike, whether it's lunchtime or is the best food you've ever had. And that's the food that's like been sitting in the, if you had that same sandwich the next day, you'd be like, this sandwich is crap. But because you hiked for 7 miles and you stopped at this one place, you're like, this is the best sandwich I've ever had in my entire life. It doesn't matter what it's made of. It is delicious. So
yeah, I've done long hikes in Mount Baldy, and the classic, just ham and cheese sandwich, it's, it's not amazing, but it gets the job done. I had one, during like a 8-mile hike, and I thought like it was the best thing ever. Yeah. Sure, it was the lack of oxygen that might have messed with my brain and thoughts, but hey, it was great, and I will never forget that moment.
Hypoxia is like, it's not an aphrodisiac, but it is a mood enhancer. As you go up higher, you generally get more jovial. That happens whenever you're about to die as well. Just letting you know, you can go all the way. If you ever want to know, hypoxia is a great way to die because you were like, this is awesome. You're speaking to somebody who actually went into altitude chambers and passed out in an altitude chamber and then woke up, and everybody was like, how was it? I'm like, I don't know, man. I feel great. It was great. And they're like, you were going to die. And we put an oxygen mask on you, and that's how it works. So, yeah, it is all good. All right. Anything else that you want to get to that you think is important here? The LA Galaxy have one more game coming up on Saturday, and that is the final game of Coachella. And then that is it. And then it is.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's
against Chicago Fire. They've been really good in preseason. They've got a decent roster on there, so I think this is going to be a good test before the regular season. So I'm looking forward to the game. I think it's going to be, again, it's preseason. We're not going to read too much into it or make these crazy opinions about the team right away. But hey, it's a good team you're competing against. You're going to be playing against a team that I think is going to be really good in the Eastern Conference. They've got some talented individual players, obviously with Greg Berhalter being the former U.S. men's national team coach. There's a guy who kind of, I guess, knows what he's doing.
Right.
But I would think that it's going to be a good matchup for the LA Galaxy.
Yeah, he has Omar Gonzalez now over in Chicago.
That'll your guy, right?
Yeah, my favorite
guy, right?
Yeah, I love him. So he'll be over there. Be interesting to see if he gets any playing time. Joe Citino said it on the broadcast on Wednesday. He goes, the rule for the last 2 games is don't get hurt. That's it. That's the only rule. Like, get your minutes in and don't get hurt. That's it. Don't do anything crazy. Don't do anything stupid. I'm going to warn everybody right now. It doesn't matter if the Galaxy lose by 20 goals against Chicago. It will not matter whatsoever whenever they take the field against San Diego on the 23rd. So that's sort of where we sit with Coachella. We wanted to tell you the championship trophy tour on the 15th on Saturday. It will be in Hermosa Beach. That's Hennessy's Tavern in Hermosa Beach from 5 to 7 p.m. So you can catch that one on there. We, of course, had an MLS Cup at our live show. It was right there. We took some pictures and had a whole great time, so that was fun. The last thing I want to let you know about is Leagues Cup, and coming up at the end of July and the beginning of August, you're going to get 3 games back to back to back. 7/31, so July 31st, August 3rd, and August 7th. The LA Galaxy will go up against Club Tijuana. You have Cruz Azul, and then you have Santos. Right. And so those are the 3 teams that you're going to get. The crazy thing is that 3rd game is actually a doubleheader on a Thursday. Who would have known? And the order of the matchups are completely to be determined. So the LA Galaxy could have the late matchup. They could have the early matchup. We don't know. And if it's an early matchup, Alex and I were trying to do the math, and we were thinking like 2, 3 o'clock is whenever you can play the earliest game. Maybe even like at 1. So how that's going to work is certainly going to be interesting. But the idea here is that they bundle all of these 3 games in the group stages into 1 week. And then whenever you get to knockouts are played weekdays during the season after that. So there is no big, long, giant break for MLS, but it is going to have some schedule congestion in there, especially whenever you look at 3 games back to back to back like that. That's going to be... It's going to be a tough one. The LA Galaxy actually get home field advantage for a large majority of that tournament as well, being they were MLS Cup winners. And so you can expect to see if the LA Galaxy advance for them to stay at home. And that's a good thing because home teams that play at home usually do better in tournaments whenever that goes.
Yeah, they're also good games, I'd say, in my opinion. Cruz Azul, good team. Tijuana, maybe the return of Efrain Alvarez, right?
Yeah, could be.
Is he gonna, cast his frustrations?
Hattie.
He's been playing really good for Tijuana lately. So yeah, if there was I would go the overs on Efrain Alvarez, all his stats that game. That's just my advice.
Yeah, it should be interesting. So we'll keep those updated as we get closer. 7 games coming up in March for the Galaxy with CONCACAF Champions Cup. So we'll keep you updated on those as well. But boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, you are getting ready for the 2025 season. The 6-time MLS Cup champions, our defending champs, will go out there on February 23rd whenever they face off against San Diego FC. That is on Sunday. It's Sunday Night Soccer as far as Apple TV is concerned. You're getting the A team from Apple TV. It is going to be a crazy quick start to the season, and we are all right there. A Galaxy still looking at possibly adding in a Nascimento. We do expect that happens sometime in the next couple days, or at least before they start the season. But there's also been talks about visas taking a while and doing the whole thing, so I don't know that he would be ready for game number 1 as it goes. So just more stuff to watch, more things. Alex, anything else? We good?
Yeah, I think we're good. I mean, final preseason game, and then it's real games that matter. So came super quickly. Honestly, I'm really looking forward to this season. I'm gonna ask you real quick. We know Apple TV's doing the release of the MLS documentary. You looking forward to it, or forgotten about it already?
Yes. No. Well, I mean, it'll be good because, especially for Galaxy fans, you know how it ends, right? So it should be. It's
a happy ending.
It's a happy. You already know how it ends, so it should be really interesting. I'm interested to see what they have sort of. Behind the scenes wise. And then we've seen a lot of things. There's been a lot of cameras in LA Galaxy land as well. And so I'm waiting to see what footage is going to which documentary and sort of how that all goes, right? So interested to see how that all funnels out. So yeah, looking forward to it and can't wait. Alex, why don't you tell people where they can find you, and we'll get on out of here. Let's go.
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter X at ALXR15. You can also find my written work on the Galactic Tribune, where we have articles about everything LA Galaxy related.
All right, always thank Alex for stopping by. Alex is great, so make sure you check out all of his stuff. If you're looking for me on all of the social medias, at Galaxy Podcast, and then head on over to cornerofthegalaxy.com and go over to YouTube, SoundCloud, all those fun places. Spotify is where you can find our podcast, so subscribe. We have our soccer-wise stuff that's up on our podcast right now. It's up on our YouTube page, so go like that. Go follow those guys as well because they do a great job. But we will be back on a Monday night getting you ready for actual game week whenever we come back. So for Mr. Alex El Nino Ruiz, I'm Josh Pato Guessman, and you've been listening to our little Corner of the Galaxy. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast, cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast, and be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening. We ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye.